Please note, archived episodes of this podcast originally aired on Unity Online Radio.
One step away, forward in motion, know where I've been, know where I'm going. Voices rise up, a beautiful sound. There's more than enough music to go around. Everyone step in line with me. Put your hands up, get on your feet. Oh, 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 oh. This is my circle. This is my tribe. Leaning together, we know we're all on the same side. We are stars in the same sky. Circle of stars in the same big sky. We burning brighter than before. We shining on forevermore. Circle of stars in the same big sky.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Voices of Unity. It's your boy Rev Skip.
I'm Chad Bradford.
Aloha, everyone. It's Faith Rivera, and we have a special guest and a special greeting for all you veterans. My daughter, Izzy, brought this home from school. She's a little shy, but she recruited her brother here, Kai, to give this special greeting to all of you veterans. Here you go, Kai.
Thank you, veterans, for all you've done. In our hearts, you are number one. You give up so much in sacrifice. You leave your families without thinking twice. We have our freedom because of you. We can't thank you enough for all you do. Happy Veterans Day.
Happy Veterans Day. We love you.
Oh,
Great job, Kai.
That was amazing.
Great job.
And then once again, we need to have an applaud button. We have to have applaud button to be like, so we applaud you. That was pretty awesome. How y'all doing? Yes, it is Veterans Day, so
It is.
It's my day. It's my day, so
It is your
Yes.
day. We
it's my
forgot
day.
that.
Yeah, that's okay.
Right.
Here's the thing, and I said this in yoga class because I always say Happy Veterans Day. So today in yoga class, I said, I bless everyone who served and I honor your service. I honor my service, but I am a warrior of peace these days. And I believe that there's a different way that we can solve our problems. But I do honor your sacrifice. I honor what this day is all about. But I also want to bring a higher consciousness around peace and love in this world. So happy Veterans Day out there, everybody. And we love you and thank you for your service.
Oh, we do.
How y'all doing?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I bet you all the veterans out there would say like, yeah, we wish our job didn't entail what it does to be warriors of peace instead. So amen to that vision. I mean,
Yeah.
I want to see it in our lifetime.
Yeah, I have some other. That's a whole nother show, y'all. I ain't gonna go down there. Because there's some people who don't want peace on this world, and they see the benefits of war and gaining profit over war. But that's a whole nother show.
It
Let's
is,
keep
and
it
that's
light.
not
How y'all doing?
That's
How y'all doing? Let's keep it light.
Yes.
Well, listen, that's the first rule of thumb. Keep it light, then we go deep. So.
I tell
what
you,
y'all
I
got?
don't. Skip, you remember our friend Courtney Bennett who came on with us.
I do.
Her
Yes.
star foraging group and her Instagram account and her business keeps growing and growing, which is really cool to see. But from her, I know that there's umpteen things in retrograde and and there's full moons, and boy, am I feeling it. I feel like I've been, just upside down the past 2 weeks, but fortune ahead.
Faith, have you been feeling it? Because I know you just claim retrograde anytime something's out of order. But if you feeling retrograde these days, Faith would go, retrograde. I'm going, Faith, it's not retrograde. She goes, retrograde. I'm like, Faith, it's not retrograde. Do you feel it?
Oh yeah, I mean, but I also claim that here. Let me show the unicorn way to do retrograde. So my daughter had 2 days off. She only went to school actually 2 days this week. So we're all excited. We have season passes to Wet and Wild, right? So we're packing up. I was busy in the morning and I said, let's go. So we drive far. I mean, on the island, it's far. It was like 30, 40 minutes, right? We get there. It is not even open. Okay. And then, so we say, let's go to the slime place. So we go to the side. Well, it's opens at 11. So we walk around, and I'm committed in my mind. We're just like, well, we're still going to have a great time. the sign place didn't open either. So it was a day of things not being expected. And yet I think when you're committed, to having a good time, we had a fabulous time. We'd laugh at everything that was closed, or the park gates we couldn't get through. I mean, it was a fun retrograde kind of day.
Skip looks so skeptical right now.
I'm like, okay, whatever.
It is true.
No, it is. No. I'm not going to poo-poo it. I am not going to be Reverend Poo-poo today, because I sometimes can be Reverend Poo-poo. I am not Reverend Poo-poo, but I'm gonna tell it like it is. Sometimes, and we've talked about this, sometimes you got to say retrograde is just retrograde. I know that sometimes, like Chad just said, I feel upside down, twisted, and stepped on sometimes in retrograde. But yes. I love what you said, Faith. It's all how the energy you put behind it. I love you, Unicorn.
Yeah, and it's more than that. It's really, I was like, well, what is the gift here? I mean, almost to a point where I was like, well, so what is it? If the thing, and I don't know that it was some big spectacular thing, but we had amazing halo halo, which is a Filipino dessert on that side of the island. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm going to take it home.
I love me some halo halo.
Take it home to the rainbows. I'm telling you.
Because you remember I was stationed in Hawaii. Hawaii. Yeah. I know halo halo. I know all the Hawaiian foods, yo. Mm-hmm. I never met a bowl I didn't like.
Okay.
For real. I'm serious.
Okay, so what's your retrograde living look like? What's your retrograde living?
To tell you the truth, it just when you're senior minister, it feels like everything's in retrograde. So you're putting fires out everywhere. You're putting fires out with your staff. You're putting fires out with your members. You're putting fires out with your practitioners. Wow. But in the retrograde, what we've been talking about this for the last few weeks has been, can you see the beauty in the challenging parts? Mm-hmm. And we've talked about this the whole time in the show. So part of my retrograde has been, can I see the divine in the not feeling so great retrograde? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because that too is God too. That too, and we just went deep. But that too is God as well. But I can tell you, can tell you one thing that I have been just loving, and I normally don't love. We've been in the middle of a hurricane here, another one.
Okay.
But it hasn't been. It's been like a character. It's been like a Category 1, not really a hurricane. Everyone said it's the baby hurricane because we just had a Category 5.
Yes.
Right.
So but it's been this tropical rainstorms that will cloud up, and it's been like rain. I loved it. I loved it. It's just been like, I sit outside of my balcony and just listen to the rain. It's been wonderful. So I did that yesterday. And I'm about to go to London. So I'm getting excited.
God, that's so exciting. My God.
I'm going to London in less than 3 weeks. I was just saying to James, less than 3 weeks. But let's keep it real here. Now I'm like, I got to get the stomach down because I've been eating. I haven't seen him in 3 months. So what happens when you don't see your partner in 3 months and now you're going to show up and you got this extra weight since the last time, Listen, I'm a minister, but the truth is truth. I still want to look good for my man. So come on now. I'm just real. I'm real. Yes. So I'm working out twice a day.
Yeah, I was like, you do hot yoga. I mean, like, come on, you're beautifully.
But still, I lost my mind at Halloween. Did y'all lose your mind at Halloween? I had the youth department had candy and I stole it. I
am still losing.
You were the trick and treat.
Well, see,
it's all in my fridge. All the M&Ms, and whatever. So there you go.
I had to dump everything out of I threw it away. Chad, I threw it away because I had M&Ms, I had Snickers, I had Twix. Yeah. They were all in my house. And I was like, and here I am, a fitness professional, and I'm going, what? I lost my mind. Retrograde, I lost my mind.
Well, listen, so I have to know, what is your favorite Halloween candy of all those? Yeah. You look so naughty all of a sudden.
I know. Okay, so this is what I love to do. I like to take the Snickers and put them in the freezer. and then you take the Snickers out of the freezer and you put them in vanilla ice cream.
Oh,
That's
All right.
that's what I
Very
did.
Sounds
That's what
good.
I just
Very
told to
nice.
myself, y'all. That's what I did. But I had to
Oh.
stop it. I had to go, stop it. I had to go, stop it.
So spiritual. No, I'm kidding.
Oh my gosh.
It is. It is spiritual. My
Do you have a favorite,
goodness.
Faith?
Yeah, Faith, what's yours?
They're all equally good. I mean, I go between mostly M&Ms, plain, and
Plain?
yeah, and Twix. Oh no, here we go. Okay,
Oh,
new thing I
tell the
did,
truth.
M&Ms into the peanut butter.
Mm.
Peanut butter. That was new for me.
Yum.
So that's my favorite
Yum.
now. All right, okay,
Yum.
Chad, what
Yeah,
about you?
Chad, what's your
Well,
favorite? What's your favorite?
I'm down with the peanut butter too. I love a Reese's. That's the little Reese's cups. Yes, the little
So
sweet
is
and
it-
salty.
I was gonna ask, is it weird? Because I like to take Snickers and eat them at the same time with potato chips and alternate back and forth.
Oh, I haven't
It's
done
like,
that.
is that the sweet and salty? Is
Yeah.
that the sweet and salty? You know?
Yes, yes,
Like
definitely.
bacon chocolate. There's like bacon flavored chocolate. That might be
Oh,
just for you.
we are losing our mind here today. We have a special guest that's coming up, but before the special
That's
guest,
right.
I have to ask you a question. Okay, so I'm in the middle of a Thanksgiving candy yam sweet potato cook-off. Now, here's the question. Marshmallows on top or no marshmallows on top? And I'm going to follow my mama. It is sacrilege to put marshmallows on your sweet potatoes. That's sacrilege. You've just ruined the sweet potatoes. And then I have someone else who's coming to the dinner saying, no, we're going to do marshmallows on ours. So we're in the middle of a sweet potato candy yam bake-off. Or what, Faith? Your marshmallows, aren't you, Faith?
We don't, you know what? Growing up, we didn't have any of that anyway. So
Really?
it's weird for me to have marshmallow on the hot food. But could they just have the marshmallows on the side and sprinkle it on if they want later? Is that an option?
That's well, no. See, we're actually having a bake off.
Oh, you have to bake.
They're bringing one with marshmallows, and I'm bringing one without.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
And I can't lose this bet because it's with another minister, and I've been bragging
Oh.
about this. But Chad, marshmallows on top of your candy yams?
I mean, I think if you were planning on that being your dessert, you got to go all the way. But if it's like a side
It's dinner.
dish,
It's a side
but if it's a side
dish.
dish, I can't. I like it without.
Thank you,
You
my
know,
brother.
I don't
I
want
knew
to.
I loved you. I knew I loved you. See, no marshmallows on candy yams. The listeners are going to be mad at me because I know some listeners are going, I love me some marshmallows on the candy yam.
But see,
y'all
my
ready
thing
for
is like,
Thanksgiving?
if I'm
Are
going
you
to have
ready?
that kind of thing,
Okay.
then I want sweet potato pie at the end. That's my thing. I'll have the sweet potatoes doing the thing if I need to, but it's that sweet potato pie that really gets me.
But it's a real sweet potato pie because real sweet potato pie is yellow.
Oh yeah.
It's not the orange. It's not the yams. That's a yam pie. Sweet potato is yellow.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
See, people don't know
there's-
this. Faith,
Yes.
you don't know nothing about no Thanksgiving, Faith.
No, my families are rebels. They're like, does anybody really care if we have turkey? We're like, no. So we're just getting things we love. So other things we
boy.
love. So
Yeah, I tell you,
I know. You in trouble, Faith.
we're all hey, to each their own, to each their own.
Yes, you're right. That's why we have voices of unity. That's why we have.
We do. And
multiple
that's why,
variety.
we're going to have to ask our guest all of these really important questions about marshmallows and favorite Halloween.
And all
candy.
that too. Hey, Faith, why don't you introduce our guests for this
Oh,
week?
yes. We are just so excited to have Pamela Brinker here with us. She's a well-respected, experienced psychotherapist for 31 years. She's treated thousands of clients. She's developed over 20 tools and practices to teach conscious bravery. Doesn't that sound good? Conscious bravery. As a speaker and trainer, Pamela has led groups and workshops on a variety of themes, everything from supporting loved ones with addiction, bravery, healing grief, transforming fear, and cultivating happiness. We are all about that. And her first book, Conscious Bravery, not only can you find it on Amazon, you should find it on Amazon because it's an Amazon bestseller, and just so much more insight. And we're just so excited to welcome her here. Pamela Brinker, Brinker. Welcome.
Welcome.
thank you so much. It's a delight to be here
Welcome
with
to
all
the
three of you and your listeners.
show. I am so excited about you being here because my partner James is a psychotherapist as well. So I get along with psychotherapists, so I'm very excited about it. So welcome
Great.
to Voices of Unity.
Thank you very much.
Now, before
So,
we,
oh, good. Oh, go.
well, say
No, go.
before,
No, Faith. Up in.
yeah. Well, I was gonna say before we jump in though, Pamela, we have to know what's your favorite Halloween candy.
Oh my goodness. We didn't get any Halloween candy this year, but I tell you, every day
Wow.
I eat dark chocolate. So let's just say
Oh,
probably the Choco Love organic
oh,
That's good
70%
for the soul.
chocolate, dark chocolate. Oh man, every single day. I love that.
It's good
yeah.
for you. It's good for your
Yes,
Not
life. It's
just
good for
Halloween.
your body as an antioxidant.
Yeah.
And then if you have prayed and you have meditated and all else fails, eat chocolate.
You bet. It's a mildly antidepressant. You bet.
It
Yes.
is. Ed.
So,
So my question to you was, is it marshmallows on your candy yams or no marshmallows? These are very, really deep spiritual questions here. Is it marshmallows or no marshmallows?
You're asking me?
I'm asking you, yes.
Wonderful. It is absolutely candied yams with marshmallows because we like the dark and the light and everything in between, all the colors in between.
wow.
You betcha.
Okay.
I love it. I love it. Chad, do you have a serious question for him? That is serious right there. That is
Well,
serious.
I'll try to start us off. I love your work. And if you go to, I believe it's bebrave.us. Is that correct, Pamela?
You can still get to my website that way. We changed it. So now you just go to my name, PamelaBrinker.com, and that'll take you straight to my website. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, I tell you, it just in looking at some of the material you have there and just all over the place, I love this idea of being brave. You know, I think we've talked about courage on the show before, but bravery is kind of a concept that that I think that it would be wonderful if we could access more in our lives, because it kind of denotes that we're in a situation where bravery is called for, and so I wonder if you can talk about bravery and what that really means.
I'd love to. To me, bravery that is active and alive has to be conscious. And we use it every day. You know, you're speaking of maybe some of the instances that we think of when we imagine what bravery entails, and that means kind of jumping in to save the day, right? For many of us, or putting out fires, as you're saying, at work. But bravery can be, as I like to say, it isn't always tough as nails. It can look like softness and it can sound like stillness. So bravery can come in the quiet moments when we're deciding, should I take the extra 3 minutes to meditate right now and to close my eyes and get in my heart space? That can be a brave choice because it's a resilient choice, right? All the recent research about meditation and yoga are that we are more alive and vibrant in our bodies when we step into them and when we ground. And that's part of what bravery is about and does for us. So from my part, for my part, and what I've taught my clients and people with whom I train, people that I train, I really believe in practicing bravery in the calm moments and in the in-between moments that are bumpy, so that we're ready and it's ingrained and embedded in us for the devastations.
That's so powerful, and it really is. It feels like just as you said, finding those moments to practice that and lean into bravery in all those moments. So you know, I used to play basketball. I was going to be in the NBA for a very long time before I stopped growing, and and really, you know, our coach would always talk about, you practice like you play, or you play like you practice. And so it's in those moments. So I always think about, you know, meditation practice and these spiritual practices for when, as you said, those devastations and the crisis comes. Yeah, that's really beautiful. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, I love how you said during that you practice, because we have to practice bravery. We can't just do affirmations and then it suddenly appears when we want it to. It becomes a body, heart, mind, soul, energy space activation. So bravery can look 100 different ways on 100 different days, but it's because we practice it. And we might practice it during sport or during music, or like as Kai was doing, your son this morning, he came on and he bravely read his sister's poem about veterans, which was so beautiful. And so that took a little bravery. He must practice regularly to be able to just on the fly step in and speak in front of what are probably hundreds or thousands of people. And he may not even know that. But, bravery is required in our relationships. Your partner's coming home. And so you want to be present. We need bravery for presence. We need bravery for basically everything, especially coming off of this pandemic. We're all still kind of dealing with the shrapnel of it.
Yes. Well, and the elections, and I mean the war that's going on, and all this kind of stuff. And while you were both speaking, I got a visual. I thought of the bamboo. I thought of this bamboo that is so strong and yet so gentle, and it sways. And I thought about your story, Pamela, which I wonder if you'd share a little bit about it, of what your personal story was that led to this passion you have around conscious bravery. And I imagined you were this bamboo that was like, I better bend and I better what. So could you share a little bit about what that story was, of what you lived through to come to where you are now?
Glad to. And a visual to accompany you. In one of the chapters of my book, I talk about being a tall tree, that we have to be able to bend and sway with circumstances and not define ourselves by our situations or our circumstances. And so that's how I had to learn the tough way, like most of us. I'm sure I'm not the only one among all our listeners who've had really huge devastations. But 11 years ago in October, my kid's stepdad and my beloved husband died of a grade 4 glioblastoma brain cancer. And he had found out that he was going to pass, it's a terminal diagnosis, a year and 3 months before he died. And as much as my sons and I were prepared for his passing, still, it really knocked us off of our feet. And they were grieving more than I knew. And of course, as a mom and psychotherapist, I was as present with them as I could be. And I had all these tools and practices I'd taught my clients for years and walked alongside with them in their journeys. But there was not a bravery protocol available. There was not one book on bravery that I could find. I was pulling from all these different resources, from meditation, different kinds of meditation, from different kinds of yoga practices, and doing all these things and talking to friends, reaching out for help and support, seeing different kinds of therapists and reading all these books. But I had a stack, this high, and I wanted something simple. And so I had to write the book that I needed, because shortly after my husband passed, both my sons, who were teenagers at the time, turned not just to me, but turned to one another and to drugs and alcohol as the answer to their pain. And I did not know they were struggling as much as they were. We talked about grief openly, and everything that anyone would do when you know about the stages of grief and how it looks different ways on varying days. But still, I found out some months afterward that they were sneaking alcohol and using drugs and stimulants and hallucinogens. And within about 4 years, they both became addicted to stimulants and then methamphetamines. And so it's been a journey for our family. And for me, it's been a really tough journey. And I've made lots of mistakes. And so I started collaborating with colleagues and friends, and researching and taking notes and looking at all the stuff I'd taught my clients, looking in their charts, and started compiling a body of knowledge that to me were the pillars of conscious bravery and what that means. And that's what my book's about. And I'm glad to talk more about what those are.
Well, was
That's
bravery?
beautiful.
Go ahead, Skip.
No, you go.
I just wanted to ask, while you were going through it, was the word bravery just something that popped out at you that you're like, was that a word you honed in on, or a word you found later to help you through? Was it like, post or during?
I found it then.
Okay.
I remember having a day that was just horrific, and a number of days shortly after that, where I basically was suddenly a single parent and aware that my sons were struggling greatly and turning to drugs and alcohol. And I didn't know if they needed a treatment or if they needed medication prescribed by a psychiatrist, what was needed. And I remember feeling so overwhelmed, and as spiritual and anchored and rooted as I am in not only my own essence, but connecting to God, I was still really knocked off, just knocked completely flat. And I remember feeling that gripping fear that we've all experienced, and I'm sure our listeners have as well. Many of my clients come to me because they struggle with this gripping fear. So I remember feeling that. And then, just like you saw the bamboo a little bit ago, some grace came to me and basically said, you don't have the luxury of despair. And I remember that Cheryl Strayed had written that in her book, Tiny Beautiful Things, that we parents don't have the luxury of despair. And something came together inside of me. My whole being kind of just got stirred. And I remember grounding and anchoring and thinking, I have got to be brave. And I used the be a tall tree, like I'm anchored and rooted, just like the tree of life. And I've got to be able to bend and sway with this and flow with this change and face the unknown. And so those are some of the chapters of my book, really being with a now there's this approach. And I remember writing a little note that I stuck up on this prop in my kitchen that said, okay, now there's this. And I had learned that from a friend in town who's a yoga instructor. And she just said, we want to have that. Okay, now this has arrived. All right, be with our emotions for a bit around that. Breathe into it consciously, into our whole beings. There's this. Instead of fighting it, I had to quit fighting it. I was trying to fight stuff that I had no control over. So I had to just embrace what was.
I'm very, very clear. And thank you for writing this book. I'm grateful that you wrote the book that you needed so that we all can benefit from it. I'm very, very clear that bravery is not all about feeling. Because most of us, and I just taught yoga today and we were having this conversation, most people don't feel brave when bravery is called for. It's an action. So how do you get to that point where, because I've had many clients sit down in front of me going, I just want to feel different. I just want to feel out of this loneliness, this grief. I just want to feel differently. And I always am asking them, so, think about this, that if this was how you would feel for the rest of your life, what quality would you cultivate to get through it? People say, oh, love, self-love, or joy, or peace. Then pray and meditate on peace. You'll get there. This is the remedy for a dark night of the soul. So in your book, how do you talk to people and how do you get them to get there when they're not feeling it?
And you've got it. Just like all three of you have specific things that you're great at and you practice them regularly. So we commit to it. For anyone who wants bravery, which is almost everyone here, if you don't feel that you need it yet, I can promise you, you will at some point soon. And so initially we commit to it, just like we commit to becoming more loving. We all have the seeds of bravery. We're all born with this innate capacity to be braver, but we have got to cultivate it, just like we cultivate love. We're not just naturally really skilled at being a great partner, being really loving or compassionate. It takes practice, and it takes practice in the calm moments. Just like for me, I play the piano and I play the ukulele, but I'll practice and I'll warm up. I don't just sit down getting ready to play this beautiful piece. I warm up and I play chords and I play scales and things. And then I can gradually move into playing a piece and playing it closer to perfectly than I would if I didn't warm up. And that's what we need. We commit to bravery, and then we cultivate the pillars of bravery so that we have them at the ready and they're innate when we need them. And it's a lot about, those of you who love neuroscience, it's a lot about rewiring and epigenetics. So epigenetics is that we can change. Our DNA does not just station us a certain way. We are not stuck based upon our DNA. We can change based on interacting with ourselves and our environment and authentic connections with each other. And we can rewire our brains. And how do we rewire our brains and bodies? Practice. We do the uncomfortable thing repeatedly. We face the unknown. We embrace change. We say, instead of, oh God, I can't handle this, I can't do this, we say, this is hard. Wow, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Now there's this.
Pamela, you talk about you play the ukulele. That is so amazing. I love that.
Oh,
And this is the perfect segue into, I think we have the perfect song for us today. Faith, what's our music?
We do. And, Pamela may even have more things to say about this song. I chose Janice Stanfield's If I Were Brave. It was written by her and Jimmy Scott. And come to find out, there's special meaning to Pamela. Do you want to say a little bit about it before we play the song?
Sure. When I was first establishing my new website, I wanted it to be sort of interactive. And so I knew of a friend of Jana Stanfield's, and I asked her to please ask Jana, could I put her song on my website? And she just said yes. Yeah. And so if you want to hear this song, not just today on the show, you can hear it also on my website, which is pamelabrinker.com. along with another song called Shine that you will also love. But anyway, can you play it, Faith?
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna play right now. This is our music segment, which I always love. Okay, let's listen. Here we go.
If I knew that I could not fail, if I believed would the wind always fill up my sails, how far would I go, what could I achieve, trusting the hero in me? If I were brave, I'd walk the razor's edge, where true believers dare to tread, and never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step would I take today if I were to do what we secretly dream? What would you ask if you knew you could have anything? Like the mighty oak sleeps in the heart of a seed, are there miracles in you and me? You know there are. If I were brave, I'd walk the razor's edge, where true believers dare to tread, and never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step would I take today if I were brave?
Welcome back to Voices of Unity. That is Jana Sansfield. And what I love about that song is she asks you, if you had no fear, what would you do if you're brave? So, quick, rapid question. You have one sentence to answer. We're going to go around the room. Faith, what would you do if you had no fear? What would be the one thing you would do?
I would write songs every day. I know that
love
sounds
that.
so crazy, but I would make
No.
time. Yeah, because I don't. That's
Chad,
what
what would you do if you had no fear
Yeah.
and you could do anything? What the one thing, what would you do?
Wow. Oh my God, such a big question. I think something similar to Faith. I'd finally sit down and just write that big musical, that big play that's brewing inside.
I love that.
Yes.
For
And what
me,
about you? Yeah.
it would be to act on stage, to be on Broadway, to go and act and just be live all the time, act. That's what I would do. Pamela, what would you do, boo? If you could do anything, what could you do? What would you do?
Well, I have a slightly different view of fear. I like to view fear as my advisor. And so I already actively have a relationship with fear that I feel is pretty proactive and positive. And fear can actually be a motivator. So I can seesaw from fear into proactive motivation and action because I'm not afraid of fear anymore. So I guess I just see fear as an advisor, and it's kind of a partner with me, just like a lot of the other emotions I experience.
Well, if you could do anything in the world, what
If I
would
could
it
do
be?
anything,
Anything.
you can.
gosh, I think I would travel more and meet more people like you. I would go out of
Yeah.
my way to meet people like you, not just see you on these shows I'm on and so forth. I would meet you one-on-one, in
We talk
person.
about fear all the time, and
Yes.
the thing that I teach is that if you look at the word fearless, it doesn't mean you're living without fear. It means that you're learning to fear less, and you can only fear less by loving more. It's that
Yes.
simple, people. You can only fear less by loving more. It's that simple.
Brilliant.
So I love what you're talking about. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I
Yes.
love that song too. Good one, Faith. You're doing good. But you're getting us back to the
Thank
weekly
you, Faith.
songs. You know that? I almost cried, almost had that man tear. You have a whole month that you can't play songs with a man tear. Yeah, you're
Okay.
getting close again.
Got it. Well, before we move on, I just want to give, real props to Jana Stanfield and Jimmy Scott for writing that song. But not only that, Jana is the real deal. I want to give a shout out to a film school she created. It's called Refugee Film School. And she went and taught these kids, I believe it's Kuala Lumpur, how to have these skills in creating content and helping people do editing and all that, right? Filming, which I should call them for us, so they can help support their families. And so it's refugeefilmschool.com. And that's just something she does service. And I'm sure it was something that was calling her, but she was scared, but she did it anyway.
Absolutely. And you all
love
can
that.
donate to her program
Yes.
and to her website. Our
Yes.
family has too. So
That's amazing. This week at CSL, we're talking about vision partners and finding, I'm asking 3 questions. Number 1, do you believe our thoughts and our language creates our reality? Number 2, do you believe that we're connected to everything, the law of oneness? And number 3, do you want to see a world that works for everyone? And that means you have to find your vision partners. You have to find the people that because we can't go and save the world by ourselves. One person can initiate inspiration, but you have, Rosa Parks, you have Nelson Mandela, you have Gandhi, all these people, they're one person, but it inspired the people to change the planet. So Jana, thank you for doing your school. Thank you for inspiring us. We can get involved. We can connect with our vision partners who's going to make a difference on this planet.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
absolutely.
I want to, because we have been talking about feeling, we've been talking about fear, and one of the things that you said earlier, we think about bravery sometimes as running in the burning building and saving the kids and the cats and bringing them out. But, I think about those small things in our lives, or things that we might look from the outside and call small, like standing up for ourselves with people that we know and are very connected to. And those seem like moments that call for bravery and call for us to act when maybe the feelings don't line up with the action that we have to take. So I wonder if you could talk about those moments as well.
Absolutely. The process of stepping into the waters of untested bravery can be, as you all were saying earlier, well, you were Reverend Skip, it can be a kind of beautiful ugliness. And so that means for it to be that beautiful ugliness, which are opposites, seeming opposites to most of us, we need to have that capacity and that familiarity with embodying opposites. Right. And so in order to do that, we need to have an experience of being able to handle our own shame, for example, or as you're saying, to find inner confidence and do something with it. Inner confidence just kind of sits waiting unless we move it into action. And so we want to be able to, one of the pillars of bravery is to befriend all of our feelings, even our shame, even our despair, even disgust, because those things can motivate us to do something different in our lives. And we want to become more resilient and adaptable, right? And so to answer your question, we really have to become very flexible, resilient, to become more comfortable with discomfort, which is a chapter in my book and part of what I teach in workshops. We want to be able to know what conscious breathing is and do it at any given time. So conscious breathing is really how we reset in any situation, how we recalibrate. And recalibration leads to adaptability, which leads to resilience, which is all part of bravery, right? And so I'm not using clinical language, but if you want to know what it is, it's resetting the vagus nerve, which a lot of people have heard about more recently. When in any given moment, when our parasympathetic nervous systems are activated, we need to either calm ourselves down so that we can make better decisions and move into proactive action. Or if we become immobilized or depressed, we need to vamp ourselves up. And so if we need to vamp ourselves up, that means we need to breathe in. Our inhalations need to be more quick, kind of like Wim Hof breathing, like that. But if we want to be able to calm ourselves down when we're feeling gripping fear or a fight response that isn't really necessary, we want to be big on the exhales. So we're breathing in, but then big exhale, just like in maybe yogic breathing, in yogic or pranayama breathing, often we do a really nice balance of an inhalation and an exhalation. Usually we can't get to that when the parasympathetic nervous system is activated. We usually need to do either some big exhales or some quicker inhales before we can have more regulated breathing. But just like you might know, Reverend Skip, Ralph Gates, who's a really well-known yogi that I love, has said that we're able to be more calm in chaotic moments if our breathing is steady. And so basically, to kind of come back to your question, we need specific tools to cultivate bravery, and we've got to practice them all the time. And that's what I had to do when I was under fire with my husband's passing and my sons being so challenged. And I've had to revisit that every step of the way. It hasn't just been, I'm not a person that embodies the hero or the heroine's journey. I'm still actively dealing with hard things right now because of my son's challenges with mental health issues and the bumpy recoveries they've both had. And that's probably true for a lot of our listeners. We can say, I am love, but what does that mean? We need specific tools to put into place so that we can be that love, so that we can activate the bravery we need.
Pamela, I thank you for sharing all of that. It makes me think of, we have a family member that is going through addiction and homelessness, and you've been there. You are there. So, my family, we didn't have training, obviously, right? But we have these big open hearts. And of course, I was on the mainland, but as this played out, and they let her into their homes, and there was a lot of hurt there. She ended up stealing from them, the whole whatever, where this addiction will lead. And it's come to a point where my family has found their no, you know what I mean? The strength in that no. And so can you speak to, I guess, the point that at some point these practices are amazing, right? Especially for the caregivers, and we would hope for the ones going through the addiction, but at a certain point, isn't there a letting go and letting it unfold because it is their journey? And I have to ask, because we're living here knowing my cousin is homeless, you know, and is that okay? And so, and for us, anyway, help me.
Yes. Oh, I love that you're asking for help, which is part of what conscious bravery entails. That's a complicated question, and I love it. And it's a complicated answer. But in short, we want to be so able to be present that we do what's ever needed in any given moment, and we can see the array of options available to us. So for some families, and sometimes for me, my sons chose homelessness against my wishes. I said, hey, you can come here. I'll make you a meal. Come here to our home. I can encourage you to go into treatment. I'll pay for it, whatever you want. But they weren't ready for either of those things in a couple of times in their lives. And they chose homelessness. And one of them was, injured. And I write about this in the book. So if you want to read the book, you can read the story. But I went out searching for him and kind of through the force, found him, had a very brief conversation with him. And then he ran from me because he was in an altered state. And so he was literally still choosing homelessness, even though he knew a shower was available for him. And I drove out to see him to offer him a hot meal if I found him. And so sometimes we do have to have really loving detachment and be able to be in our own bubble of protection and safety while offering safety and love to those we care about. But we've got to allow their resistance, because they have their own timing. People have their own path and their own journey, and it can mean sometimes that they get injured. But just really quick, to answer one more thing, Skip, if you don't mind. I totally agree with the body of knowledge, though, that says, don't wait for your loved one to have a rock bottom before you offer them help. I do not believe in tough love. I have had 4 friends who know the pain of this. And I'm not saying they did anything wrong, but their sons have died because of mental health issues and substance use issues. And so we don't have to let go so much that we put our loved ones at risk. So even if they're choosing homelessness, we can still say, hey, if you make some different choices, I'm here for you. I will help you get into treatment. I'll give you a job. You can come stay with me or whatever. We don't want our loved ones to die because we think they have a character flaw, or they're just, whatever, if we call them a name, if we think they're stupid or have lost their minds. We want to be so present and loving that we're the honey. We help them see the light, and they will, some of them eventually, and some will not. And that's the hard part of, like you're saying, both of you, letting go. So thank you for letting me.
And part of this too, and this is another take on this, another way we can look at this. And it's was one of the most challenging things I learned in pastoral care when I am in school, spending 10 years of really studying pastoral care and how to be an effective pastor and how to be an effective minister. Sometimes, and most of the time, we as a minister have to look at this going, you're on your journey. I am blessing you. And in compassion, because there's a difference from empathy and sympathy. Empathy says, I'll hurt for you. Sympathy says, I'll hurt with you. Compassion says, listen, I know you're hurting. How can I help? And that's not taking on, and you were saying the shame. I thought you were going to say the shit. That's not taking on the shit of someone else. And we just got an E rating today. We sure did. It's not taking on their crap, because we can effectively help. I'm not saying don't be empathetic and don't be sympathetic. What I'm saying is that real compassion is allowing your loved ones to go on their path and say, when you're ready, I'm here, but I'm no longer attached to the outcome of what's going to happen with you. That's where we get really caught up. You're going to get sober, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do this. And if you don't do this, then I get pissed off at you because you're not doing this. I'm caught up in your mess.
Oh, I love what you're saying.
We have to allow them to go on their way. And I'm going to pray for you every day. And I'm going to show up if you need me. The door's open. You might not stay in my house, but I'm going to give you some food, and I'm going to take you to treatment. And I'll finish with this. We had someone came into our community, had just been using crystal meth. And when someone starts off a conversation, God told me to tell you something, I'm going to question it right away. I mean, okay, I'm glad God's talking to you. And I looked at his eyes and said, have you been using? He goes, yes. I said, is it crystal meth? He says, yes. I said, when was the last time you used? And he says, today. And I said, okay, here's what I do know. I'll listen to what God has to say when you're 30 days sober. Let me get you to a treatment center. And in the building, you can't stay here because we have members around here. I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm going to make sure you get the help, but I'm also going to protect my members and protect myself. I know it sounds kind of harsh, but it is the truth when we're talking about addiction.
Absolutely. It's a powerful story, a couple of stories. We need loving boundaries to be able to say yes as needed, no when it's hard, and maybe later, show me, without pressure. And I love what you're saying too, because when I've made mistakes, it's been oftentimes, are you going to go to community service today? Or do you want to go to treatment? I've told you before, if that feels like pressure to the person who's struggling with addiction, they need to make their own choice. They won't have forgotten that we said that we're available for them. And secondly, just to tap onto what you're saying about your church, I believe in the triad of connection, that we want to know our essence, know who we are, truly who we are, our whole being, that we're not just our roles or our jobs, that we have this beautiful essence. And then we have this authentic connection with one another that guides us into our choices. We can turn to one another and say, hey, I set this boundary. What do you think about that? And maybe our dear friend will say, yeah, that's a good one. Right on. And then maybe we oftentimes forget, though, that we live in a universe where there are powers at work. God, nature, whatever you want to call it, the divine beloved is at work in ways that we can't see. And when all three are activated, we have a foundation to stand on. But if we're just teetering on trying to trust just our essence or just other people, or even two of those, it's not going to be a proper triad of connection. We need all three to have our foundation. And so I'm using a piece of wood I found.
I'm gonna Pamela, you're gonna have to explain it because it was a beautiful visual, but our listeners can't see it.
Right.
You're holding up a triangle, which you move the triangle around in such a way where we can get another perspective of learning of who we are. You had it tip top up, you put it on the side, then you flatten it out. There are different aspects of learning who and what we are. So y'all, you got to go to her website. I hope you have a triangle on your website somewhere. But that was so dope. That was so amazing the way you turned it around and you did all this. I'm going, I told y'all we need to be on Facebook Live in these shows. I'm telling you. Next year, we do Facebook Live on these shows.
Yes.
Well, it's so cool. I found this on the street after I had just written this blog about the triad of connection. And I was on a bike ride and the universe it was on the asphalt. And I'm like, whoa, is that a triangle? I think it is. And I go and it's this piece of wood. And I was meant to have it. And so if we're just leaning on one part, either our essence or on other people or on God and the universe, we're missing the whole picture. We've got to have all three, connection, authentic connection with those three aspects of power available to us.
Yes, that's beautiful. And one thing that you said as well that I just really love, in addition to our thoughts and our mind and our spirituality, that there is a physiological component to all this. And I wonder if you could just say a couple of words about that and about what happens to us physically, emotionally, how that's connected when we do make these decisions to go forth, even though we may not feel like it. How do we get our physiology involved in this?
Yes. So thank you for asking that. I teach that we can do a whole being scan really quickly in a minute or less. And there's a chapter on this in my book. So we tune into our bodies somatically. What's happening in my experience? Is my heart racing? We turn into our emotions. What am I feeling? And we give a label to maybe 2 or 3 feelings that we might be feeling all simultaneously. And they can be seemingly opposing. We can be feeling happy and shocked and some trepidation all at the same time. right? So we just know that, and we breathe consciously into our whole being as we're assessing this. And then we go to our minds. Is my mind racing? Is my mind flooded with different ideas? Do I have pinpoint focus where I want this one outcome? And I'm noticing that, yeah, I'm really attached to this outcome. Okay, wait a minute. That might not be the best thing for me to do right now. I'll breathe into that. Then we notice maybe the energy space around us. Is it vibrating? Are we connected to what's happening in our environment or our space? And then we tap into our intuition. Is our intuition telling us something? Sometimes it could be telling us something to do or not do, but sometimes our intuition is off. And then lastly, we go to our essence and we tune into and remember who we truly are, that we are these beings. We're not just these doings, right? And so those are the 6 zones of our experience. And I love how you're asking this, Chad, because we can do a whole being scan in any moment, in any given time. And then the psychophysiology comes to us because we're aware of our senses, our emotions, our thoughts, our psychology, the spiritual realm. We're tapping into all of it. And then the decision or the choice that we make will be more anchored and rooted in something greater than a momentary impulse. And we'll probably feel a little bit like it's right, and it might feel a little bit wrong at the same time. But because we've ingrained ourselves in conscious bravery, we're able to handle this doesn't feel quite right, but I know it is, so I'm going to do it anyway, kind of thing.
Whole being. I love that too. I mean, we've talked about it, the embodiment part. And I think that's where you're saying where we can actually, because I didn't get at first when you're saying, going deeper with what bravery means, but when your whole body and rewiring, you're talking about rewiring, because I wanted to ask, how do you do that? And again, what I want to, I guess, highlight or point out, it's not work though that we can do for others, I guess, but it's work we do so we are in alignment to make those choices. I want to ask as a parent though, and it's funny because, from an ego side, of course, the question I want to ask was, how do I keep my kids from being addicted? And I'm like, I know that's not what I'm trying to ask. What I'm trying to ask is, how do I be proactive in supporting the whole beingness, of my children? And before we started the show, I wonder if I had a uh-oh moment. I was pressuring my little daughter a little bit, using some of those tactics that I was like, and I could hear myself going like, don't go there. I mean, I lived through stage fright, And so I don't know if you can talk to that as a parent. I mean, that's why I really love, your insight, because you're in it. You're in it, having to live your principles and having to love your children through it too. So what does that inspire in you to say?
It's a brilliant question. The short of it is, the more present we are, the more capable we are to make better choices, right? Okay. And so presence is the key to everything that we want in life. How do we be present when we're fearful or when we want something from our children? We pause, right? And we tap into this awareness that comes from our whole being and from what's greater, from God and nature. If we're in doubt, sometimes it helps to shift what's happening in our whole being and go out and touch a tree or look at a leaf or feel the breeze. And then something has shifted in us and we have greater awareness. But there's a podcast I was on for Your Teen Magazine that's on my YouTube channel, which is YouTube at Pamela Brinker. And so that we address that question. How can you help prevent substance use for teens? And there are lots of things we parents can do, but it's the source of an entire podcast. But basically we can role model how to live as beings with whole being awareness, not just mindfulness, not just mindset shifts. We're living from awareness of what's happening in our hearts and bodies and the energy space around us, and living true to our essence. And then our young people, our beloved teens and tweens, can learn to make choices among their peers in their free time that will be better choices. There's, of course, no such thing as perfect choices or right choices. I don't think there are just righter choices.
But what you're talking about is becoming the embodiment of the theory that we're studying. It's like we can read about love, but until we really experience love, will we ever know love? And this is the embodiment. And my, oh my, how time flies when you're having such a great time. This is where we do something called the SSP, It's called Sexy Spiritual Pebbles. And our Sexy Spiritual Pebbles is how we close out the show. And it's our takeaway from the show, something that you heard or something that you said or something that you want to leave our listeners with, Pamela. And our SSP always is I believe it's the highlight for me of our experience of this podcast. So I'm going to go first. And normally I always throw it to Faith to go first. So I'm going to go first, and then Faith, and then Chad, and we'll let Pamela have our last SSP for today. So my SSP is this. I love the fact that you can be brave, but you got to be brave for yourself. And if you're not brave for yourself, you can't be brave for anyone else. It's like RuPaul says at the end of Drag Race, if you don't love yourself, how the hell you can love someone else? Can I get an amen? It's
Amen.
about it's about being brave for yourself. And then it's a residual effect. Everything else will be felt from your own bravery. This is an inside job for you. That's my SSP for today, y'all. Faith, what's yours?
Yes.
What's your
love your
SSP today?
I'm gonna tag along with what
Okay.
you said. Well, my SSP really is, it's you, Pamela, today, to show me what's possible in what all that Skip was saying, especially as a parent. You're my Shiro because you're showing me how it is to be, I'm going to say badass in the sense that you can just come from so much love and I can feel your grounding even around your kids. Cause sometimes I'm sure everyone can feel this. I lose it around my kids, right? Like I lost myself in that moment trying to force my daughter to come on here. And I'm like, hey, wait a second. Who do I say I am? Who is she? And so you're my role model of what's possible, knowing that you, and like you said, it's not a perfect path. And your sons, there's still ongoing expansion and really, hardness in life. You're like, I don't want to sugarcoat that. And yet you can come with such love and brightness. And that's what I want for my children. You didn't jump in the boat. You're talking about, you're shown the kind of love and compassion that Rev Skip was preaching about. So you are my SSP today. I'm taking what's possible in a mom like you.
That's powerful, Faith. And I got to tell you, Faith, I don't ever lose it around my kids. I never lose it around my kids. Chad, what's your SSP, my brother? What's your SSP? I never lose it around my kids.
Well, I got to tell you that I heard something the other day that I thought was really good. And someone said, if in your life, and I'm still living in the South, and so we hear a lot of interesting things sometimes. But they said, if you live in your life and you don't run up against the devil a few times, that means you run alongside him. And so I think about that today, as far as like sometimes, at least for me, and I think some people, when you encounter challenges, you can look at them as like, why me? Oh my gosh, this is so hard. Why can't this be different? Rather than looking at it in the way that we've kind of talked about today, that we can't necessarily transmute these experiences unless we're willing to practice, unless we can look at these things that come up, these chances, these opportunities to be brave as opportunities to practice in order to become to transmute that in our own outlooks and our own bodies, the physiology that you were talking about. So that's mine today, is looking at these opportunities that come up as opportunities to practice.
Thank you, Chad. And whenever you say word devil, that's a Lord have mercy moment. I'm just going to tell you, that was the Lord have mercy moment. So Speak about the devil.
Yes.
Pamela, what is your SSP for today?
Oh, and I'm clapping for all three of you. And I hope our listeners know how much I just appreciate all three of you, because what you all three said is such truth. Such embodied truth. I would say that my SSP is to embody flip sides of the same coin, because bravery, to circle back to what you were saying in the beginning, we are all warriors of peace. We're warriors and of peace. And so we're tender and strong. I would err when I would be too assertive or when I would be too compassionate. So I want to be able to know in a given moment what is needed at this given moment. And that's where the conscious breathing comes in, and the whole being awareness, pausing, and then making a choice. And so what we hold on to, sometimes we have to let go other times, but there's never one thing that we do. Conscious Bravery encompasses an array of options available to us at any given moment.
Beautiful, Pamela.
Beautiful.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Hey, can you let our listeners know where they can find you and where they can get your book?
They can get my book. You all can get my book on Amazon.com. It's under Conscious Bravery. And the subtitle is Caring for Someone with Addiction. But these are tools, practices, and pillars for bravery that we all need, whether or not we have someone in our lives that we care about who struggles with addiction or mental health. So these are all tips and tools, very practical. It's short. I narrated it myself on Audible, on Amazon.
Nice.
So you can listen to it in about 4 hours. Thank you. And then you can go to my
Congratulations.
YouTube channel. And if you do, please, I would be so grateful if you subscribe. My YouTube channel has about, I don't know, 25, 35 basic tools that I teach, little 2-3 minute videos I've made, and a bunch of podcasts and stuff that I'm on. And then if you want, you can find me on social media, and feel free to email me, but I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn under my name.
We will be following you for sure. Hey, Chad, are you doing a one-man show anymore? Or are you just
Lord,
what
no.
are you doing
Thank you,
now?
Jesus. That is over and done with.
Wait a minute,
Thank
you went
Lord.
Jesus, you said devil, Jesus.
Listen,
Is that a snake in the background that you handling, my brother? Just saying.
Listen, you can take the boy out of the South, right?
I
But
know.
listen, I'm very glad. It was a beautiful experience, but I am so thankful that I'm on the other side of it, and I learned a lot, and I had to develop a little bit of bravery doing that process, and feel like and it was a big confidence boost going through
Do you
that.
have anything coming up?
We just had our event last Friday. It went really well, and Skip, you'll be proud of me. We're from now and through until we get into the summer. We're working on in the summer. We're doing some live streaming of our events. So we'll be doing
That's
that.
what
The
I'm
next
talking
one,
about.
yes, the next one will be.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's TBA when we're going to do it, but it'll be in January. So I'll let y'all know when that is.
And we'll put in our program notes for the next podcast so people can follow you and see you do your thing.
You can find us at Arc Shakes on all the handles. And I just got to say this, as you were talking, Pamela, I went, oh Lord, it's so, you can't see it here, but I just downloaded your Audible as we were talking. So I just want to encourage everybody to get that on because it's
instantaneous. There you go.
Yes, it's right there, right at your fingertips.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Faith, my sister, what are you doing? Where are you? I know you're always doing something. Where you at?
Well, November 20th, I'll be with Unity Spiritual Center out in Westlake, Ohio. Live stream on what is it, Zoom? Well, it'll be streaming. So if you just look for their Facebook page, and all my music is everywhere. Everywhere you listen, faithrivera.com, all that. And oh my gosh, Chad's quote though, this is a whole. I want to go roll into another show. I'm gonna have to talk about that quote next week.
We don't have time to roll into another show. Maybe next week. But write it down. Write it down.
Write it down. Yeah. So anyway, what about you, Rev Skip? Where you?
Oh my goodness. Well, here's what I got to say, that I'm everywhere. And one thing I want to say about your music everywhere, we use it for our podcast on Inside Timer. So every Friday live event we do it. So I think I might owe you some money. But anyway, big announcement. Go to my website, skipjennings.com, and find out how you can go to Bali with me. We're taking a trip to Bali on June 4th to the 14th. So excited. We have 25 spots, but now we only have 23 spots, and they're going quick. So, and this is a spiritual journey to see all the temples in Bali. We have 4 different towns we're going to. We're going to be doing incredible things about learning about the Balinesian culture, eating, loving, having fun, having a great time, and yoga every morning, meditation every morning, spiritual teachings every morning by yours truly. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram. We are voices.unity. We got to do something about that, Chad. But follow us on Instagram. And don't forget to join our Facebook group, Voices of Unity Facebook group, where we drop some things in there. We drop some knowledge in there. And then again, you guys also remember you can follow all of us on our personal Instagram and Facebook, all that. Just check us out. We're doing some great things. So, Pamela, once again, it's been such a privilege to have you. Congratulations on your new book. And yeah, you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. It's just spectacular to know all of you and to connect energetically with your listeners. I feel the presence of everyone here. It's really amazing. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here. And everyone, remember, we just truly, truly, truly love you here at the show. And we're just so grateful that you listen to us. Until next time, we just say peace and blessings.
Aloha.
Bye. Subscribe, like, and share. Spread the love.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can find more inspirational podcasts at our website, www.mindbodyspirit.fm, or you can download our free mobile app in the App Store. Look for mindbodyspirit.fm.